Thanks for coming out, everybody. I'll do a little bit more of introduction. First, Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche, who is Buddhist and Bon teacher. He's known to many of you here because he's been through Boulder quite a bit, and in fact has a retreat center just south of here in Crestone. He operates the Lingmincha organization, Lingmincha International, lives in California. I'm Andrew Schelling and have been teaching at Naropa University in both the Jack Kerouac School and Religious Studies. When I was first asked to interview you, Rinpoche, I was incredibly intimidated. I'm not a very good Buddhist, meaning not a terribly diligent practitioner. I am subject to all sorts of foul and evil emotions, and they bleed into my actions. And I know very, very little about the Bön tradition. However, as I began to read your last book and think about this, I realized that, in fact, your book is addressing exactly people like me, and in fact, probably like everybody in the audience here. And what I want to just open by saying is that there has been a prevalent model in Western civilization that has come very strongly into North America, and especially for people of my generation, that artists and access to creativity comes through a lot of difficulty, trouble, turbulence, and a little bit of out-of-controlness. Models when I was young were particularly the Beat generation, who I think were instrumental in introducing Buddhism to North America, but at the same time provided models of maybe more alcohol than was necessary, maybe a little bit of wild behavior, a few more prison stints than would be necessary, and it created something of a mythology that creativity comes out of disruptions, dislocations, conflict, and misbehavior. So opening your book, it really reinforced thoughts that I have been struggling to for a long time, that creativity is something that runs all through our life and that does not need to be in opposition to oneself or to the forces around you. And I wonder if you'd like to speak a little bit about spontaneous creativity, or the word tsal, which you use for a kind of dynamic energy that we can use in our entire lives.
So welcome, everybody. So very happy to be here, very honored to be here. So spontaneous creativity, this book particularly very connected with a meditation system called Dzogchen, Great Perfection. So in the tradition of Great Perfection, our idea is that when you are exhausted, when you put so much effort in life, when your place of operation is the pain identity, then there is no creativity. That's the kind of bottom line. That's maybe what you're saying, Andrew was saying about conflict and all those. So that's not where the creativity is coming from. So idea of creativity is that as who we are, is we are complete, we are perfect, we are samanta badra kundu zangpo, we are good. So it's creativity start the place of some sense of realizing more fullness of who you are, rather than always operating from I'm not good enough to do anything or do a specific thing, and then working so hard to do things that you think you're not good at doing. So that doesn't work with your sense of creativity there. So for our idea here is also creativity is not only something that you create, like art, music, or movie, whatever it is, something outside. It's not only about that. Creativity, I think, has something to do with it's a living, the way you live. So, for example, if you wanted to feel free any given moment. if you wanted to feel loving, you don't have to go so far away to love someone or love someone who don't want to love you, but you can love someone who's ready to receive your love right at home or sitting next to you. So some sense of creativity is more of living the experiences which already exist in you and exercising that as much as possible. So that, I think, of course, the idea of spontaneity is, in a tradition here, it has something to do with effortless. So effortless will be that no matter what you're doing, if you get up in the morning, how effortful it is. Are you excited to get up, or you don't know you wanted to get up, or you don't want to get up? I mean, if you don't want to get up in the morning, there's no creativity there, right? Or you're going to go to work. You hate to go to work. If you hate to go to work, there's no creativity there. Or you wanted to do anything in your life with some deep sense of feeling you're not good at it, or feeling that some sense of not feeling the energy enough to motivate you to do it. So then the effort comes. Then the spontaneity is not there. So that's the kind of, I think, short idea.
Thank you. Yeah, and one of the things about your book is that you have very specific practices that you outline. And I know in Buddhism, for a long time, I've seen the phrases the three jewels or the three gems, body, speech, and mind. And you seem to deepen that by talking about really specifically a stillness of the body, a silence of speech, and a spaciousness of mind. And as a writer and poet and teacher, I found in particular the silence in speech to be both paradoxical, almost an oxymoron, but at the same time enormously liberating and exciting. The thought that speech is actually rounded by silence, or that there is a way through speech to get to silence. Mm-hmm. Would you like to talk about the three doors?
Sure. So, three door is a form of meditation. Idea of the door is you can use door two ways. Either you use as an entrance, or you can use door as an exit to leave. So most of the time, I think in our life, we use this door as an exit. We leave through our body. A lot of people are interested in outer body experience. I always tell, I think we need inner body experience, not very much. People are already too much out there. So the door needed to be more to come inward and have more connection to your body. And the way you have connection to your body is trying to be body a little bit more still. So it's a more sense of physical stillness, like many calm abiding meditation people teach in the beginning. Enough so that effortful stillness becomes effortless inner stillness, or some sense of stillness of your being, who you are. So in that way, you enter in some sense of deep place of stillness. From there, that is the place where actually the creativity can come. Second is the silence. Silence is it's like, of course, we all know what silence means. Silence, usually we think about silence as absence of noises or absence of sound. And so here, in a deeper sense, the meaning of silence is not only absence of sound or absence of noise. That is also, but not only. Deeper meaning of silence is there is presence of awareness in silence. Like, for example, right now, this moment, there is a silence here, even though there is a sound around here, the moment you pay attention to your silence there, you're aware of it. You are connected to that. Same way, internally, when you are aware of that silence, it kind of stops your inner chattering, and it connects again to that deep place of silence where creativity comes. So maybe the silence of creativity will be very much like a poet. that I think when you're looking for one word or when you're looking for a specific word, expecting specific word, that expectation occupies a space, it's a sound that does not allow any other things to come in there. The moment you leave that clear, then like remembering in phone numbers, if you push it, you don't remember. You said, okay, I don't mind. Pum, 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 all the numbers shows up. Silence is the source of creativity. Same way is like experiences in the mind, I say spaciousness of the mind or spaciousness, openness of your heart. So in our heart, idea is that the nature of heart, it's open, boundless openness. Qualities of the heart, it's like love, joy, compassion, equanimity. These are the quality of the heart. So when we in our life, we're trying to have experience of joy so much, or we're trying to have experience of love. We're trying to be good. So all this effort of trying to feel love, feel joy, it's exactly the reason why we are not having experiences of love or joy or something like that, because again, that effort occupies a space in the heart. There's openness, but effort obscures it. So when you learn to be aware of that, basically when you learn to be aware of effort of your body, effort of your speech, effort of your mind, and by knowing them, when you let them go, when you're able to rest deep enough and connect with your body, connect with your speech, connect with your heart, then creativity comes. So this is kind of very specific meditation to go back to the source of creativity.
Yeah, and you've talked about how often people identify with what you call the pain body or pain speech or pain mind. And one of the things that I found helpful when I've worked with you in the past is very simple practices that can be done. You don't need a meditation hall, you don't need fancy regalia, you don't need a bell, you don't need incense, but you can actually carry with you. I remember in particular a practice where you had a group of us look at the sky and watch the clouds and asked us to identify our minds with the sky and not with the cloud. That actually thoughts were like the clouds, and if we could be the sky and let the clouds drift and not be connected or attached, and they would exhaust themselves in some way. In your book, Spontaneous Creativity, you ask people to envision pills, actually, you call them, that will be remedies for the pain body, pain speech, and pain mind. And you give those as a white pill for the pain body, red pill for the pain speech, and blue pill for pain mind. And I'm going to be a little bit mischievous here, because when I first read this, I thought of something like aspirin or ibuprofen. And then the last couple of days here, I heard the term big pharma used quite a bit, and I realized, I'm thinking in terms of big pharma. I remember once going to a Tibetan doctor who compounded pills out of herbs and minerals and semi-precious stones and maybe ash and various things. Help us envision a little bit more of these pills and how to work with them as something we can carry with us through the day.
Sure. So the reason why I use the term pill, it seems like people in the West generally, and particularly in US, there's a lot of use of pills. So every time you have something's going on, immediately you know which pill to go for, and you just go for that pill. So I thought that would be good to have a pill, 3 pills, and whenever your pain body is activated, you just go and take the white pill. Whenever your pain speech is activated, go and take the red pill. Whenever your pain mind is activated, go and take the blue pill. So what does this mean? 3 pill means is, again, the idea of meditation, of course, formal, sitting on a cushion is beautiful, but also I think far more powerful informally when your personality, when your pain, your ego is challenged. Because the moment your identity is challenged, that is the place where you wake up like this. You become alive, like it's a coffee, an espresso, it's like a drug or something. You immediately don't know what to do, and then you have to recognize which one is activated. Is it the body part is activated? Is the speech part is activated? Is the mind part is activated? What meditation I need to do? So that's the idea. So let's give it the first example. Pain body. So simple idea of pain body is two things. Very clear definition of my way I look at it is two things. One is physical manifestation of contraction, pain, blockages. The most important part is the word pain identity, how you identify something. Any given moment when, for example, I say Monday morning, 9 o'clock, every collective professional pain body is activated. They say there's more people die Monday morning, 9 o'clock than any other days or times of the week. So it makes sense, you have a nice weekend and then go die instead of going to the work. So if you know exactly what I mean when if you tomorrow morning you can look it around and feel it out a little bit. There is this collective pain, and if you are part of those people, if you are participating in those people, that is the moment you're driving work. You're holding the steering very tight. Your face is like this. So if you're doing that, somebody got to be aware of that. You're already doing miserable work for unpaid. You started already maybe even the Sunday evening, So moment you're aware of that, you just say, okay, this is a pain body. It's activated. I don't have to hold that tight. I don't have to be that tight in my body. I can create a little space around me, space in me, and I can feel where I'm feeling these tensions. You breathe it out. Just by breathing out and simply by two things, by being aware and by breathing out, simply you're trying to create a little more space so that you don't have to hold on that tight. And you don't have to suffer. Basically, you're suffering. You don't have to suffer in that identity with your work. And all that recognition is very important. So that moment, being aware, taking deep breathing, and then just simply connecting with your body and the stillness. So I'm still. I'm aware of the stillness in my body. I am in my body. I am aware of my body. The light of awareness, it's shining in my body. It's active in my body. I realize the pain body was active there. Simple as that. So that's your first pill you take. If you take that, if it becomes a habit, for example, if you're driving a car to the work every day, 5 days a week, if you keep taking this pill, I guarantee you one day you'll begin to love traffic. Because it's not the traffic that you love, but what traffic reminds you to be in that beautiful, spacious stillness, that you will begin to love it. And so that's one. The second thing is, I give sometimes example of distorted family trying to get together in the Christmas dinner, collective pain, family pain. And they all are kind of they're already judging each other, or my father is not going to talk, my mother is going to talk too much, my sister is going to complain, whatever. You have idea of every single person, very clear idea. But this idea, how long you've been holding that, that's your idea of somebody. Somebody might have changed already, or somebody wanted to change this Christmas dinner. And you're already around telling them, you cannot change. My pain speech will help you not to change. I want you to continuously be the way you are. So the energy of this contraction of speech and complaining inside your head, that is very damaging in that collective space. It doesn't allow anybody to breathe anything. I always tell people, if you really wanted to have a competition in the family, have competition in the family. Who can open the window first that fresh air can come in? Who can open the window that the first light can shine in, that everybody can see each other a little bit more, feel more fresh enough, feel more connected with enough. By being quiet, by being silent, by feeling sense of restful in that silence, and feeling extra space to accommodate your own pain speech rather than throwing out. So, I mean, these are some reflections, how you reflect on them, but the actual experiences, just be aware to not activate your pain speech. If it's coming out, be aware of that. Accommodate that. Being aware, breathing out, it's already good enough to heal that pain speech and create a little bit more space of silence that you can enjoy and rest in. And actually enjoying and resting in first time in that Christmas dinner. Just keep smiling and enjoying this melody, the music of silence, and you're giving a little more space to everybody else. So that's the second pill. The third pill is it's a similar principle, so it's more feeling a hurt, disappointment, anger, that energy that you feel in your heart. And of course, when we feel in that dinner, maybe you're not aware of it. Maybe you're aware of other people kind of pain, anger, and what they will do wrong, but you're not aware of your own. So if you are interested, then you pay attention to yourself, then you can feel it. It's there. I'm going into the dinner, I'm sitting down there, I can feel it. Solid. And it's feeling different things around it. So what I need to do, I'm so happy that I can recognize my pain in my heart. Recognition, awareness of the heart, pain in the heart is the beginning of the healing of the pain. It's the beginning of some sense of maybe joy will arise. And joy will be creativity, a source of creativity. Any word you will say out of joy, any gesture, move you will make out of that joy, that is a creativity. Creativity is expressing your higher self without effort. That's what creativity is. Not just painfully creating something that everybody likes it. Every people who relate to that pain will like it and pay a lot of money for it. That's not the creativity. So that is the taking of a blue pill. So stillness in the body, white pill. Silence in the speech is the red pill. Spaciousness in the heart is the blue pill. That means being aware of that, these three qualities. Yeah.
So it seems then that there's a creativity, but also cultures like to create mythologies around creativity and sort of make it a solid thing. And then, the idea that you need to be troubled, you need to be like Baudelaire with his opium and alcohol and feeling, alienated or disunited to his culture. Your account of the simplicity of the family dinners, which I imagine almost everybody here can relate to, reminds me of one of my favorite lines of yours in the book. You said, we're not trying to get rid of ignorance. We just want to give it a rest. And I think, this seems to be what you're talking about, and that you're identifying the opportunity for creativity, not by struggling continuously against all these passions or ignorances, but somehow finding a way to just simply not identify with them and let them rest a little bit, get a little separation, a little looseness from them. And I imagine that leads a little bit into, I hadn't heard of this before, but your distinction between Russian art and Tugel art. Are these Bon words or words that come out of the Bon tradition?
Yeah.
Maybe.
So this terminology, Russian, it's it's not only been in other Buddhist schools share, Rushin, its full title would be like a Korunde Rushin. So it's basically a meditation practices in kind of very therapeutic ways of meditating that separates the higher and lower self, the dark and luminous self. It separates it. So that is Rushin. It's where basically every pain that we were talking about, every pain, conflict, everything what we have in ourselves, in this tradition, we say it's nothing wrong about them. I think that's a very important. Nothing wrong about your pain. When you have a pain, when you have a pain, when you're feeling pain, it's a good, and it's not bad at all, because your pain, you are breathing. Your wound is breathing. When it breathes, it's becoming alive. It's clearing, and that's how you look at it. In culture, sometimes when we feel like, of course, we are totally in samsara, but we feel like we're supposed to be perfect. How is possible? I mean, if you feel like you're perfect, you're in the wrong place. You should have not born here. This is not perfect place. You are perfect, but you're born in a not perfect place. And you are getting caught up with imperfections of others, right? So in some sense, I think its idea is, this term I use in my book, it's my own way of using it, but usually it's used in a different context. Idea is very simple. Idea is that this dark side can be a creative expression of you. Earlier I was saying what really like an art sense is effortlessly expressing your higher self. That is, I think, in some sense of good creativity, I guess. But the dark side of yourself, finding a skillful means to expressing them, it's also a creative art. So the only thing is what makes it creative, or what makes it specifically, spontaneously creativity, is because there should not be effort. There should be awareness. They should be guiding it. So if you're feeling, for example, a specific example, Rushin will be you go out in a forest, and an idea is sometimes people do that, they're just trying to take out their clothes, not identify with any specific clothes, just naked being, and then whatever you're trying to in touch with your own anger, dark side, and in a protective space that you're not making noise, hurting anybody, and you're expressing out with the sounds of nature and elements, like just feeling a volcano, like this explosion of a volcano, or feeling a tiger, just making a sound like a tiger, but expressing it out with full sense of compassion, awareness, in the means of clearing your own being to realize the light. And that is a good. Not just going somewhere in the basement and getting angry and brushing and going totally crazy and getting more messed up internally, even though creating some nice piece of colorful art. That's not, I don't think, according to this form, it's not, in the end, it's not serving spontaneous creativity, because it's, in the end, that expression is not changing you any different than what you are, or maybe even making you worse. So you're still creating a product of a piece of art. So that's, I think, in some sense of Rushin. Rushin is. So Togol, idea of the Togol is, what I said earlier, is that it's not that you're taking your pills very well, and in that Christmas dinner, you took really, really, really well. You took all the 3 pills and hundreds of them. You're feeling totally still. You're feeling completely silent. You're feeling heart is completely open. And you're dancing at the Christmas dinner, and you're singing the song at the Christmas dinner. You're showing the loving gestures. That's your creative art, that you're making everybody feel good, illuminate, feeling loving. That's real creative in that. And that family needs that kind of creativity, right?
Since I know that this is a literary festival, it's not just literature, there's also music, some dance, research, journalism, various things. I think of all of these as arts, really, and all of them are, creative and in a way work out the best when there's the least amount of sort of interference from your own judgmental qualities or your own, not to say you can't have, rage about things that are going on in the world, but I'm quite interested in your own practice. You've put these teachings into a book, and you've got a number of books, and I'm curious because I often feel like I can tell if a writer is enjoying themselves when they're writing or when they're not. So when students come to me and ask me questions about writing a paper or writing a project and think I've got expectations, an answer I tend to give is that if you're not going to enjoy writing it, I'm not going to enjoy reading it. And are there any very particular practices you do to work, say, on a particular project? Writing, I've seen do calligraphy also, and I imagine calligraphy requires a lot of openness, spontaneity, warmth towards your materials, warmth towards the space around you. Could you talk a little personally about the way you do work?
Yeah. So there's, I think, two things, right? In the personal one, what you're specifically asking, like I do write poetry, and in a way, every day I engage with that. Calligraphy I do, and just different art things I like to do. But of course, when I do them, I know always I have to be in the right space to do it, and I either trying to be in the right space or create a little bit of right space. If I cannot be in the right space, if I cannot create a right space, then I will not do anything. I will just say, okay, this is not the time, just wrap it up, pack it back, not do anything, and just take a break. So, and as an art, and creating something, artwork, I do that. But I feel more importantly, more than that, I feel life is an art. I was just teaching today, I was just telling that in my group, and I'm saying that art is that, like whatever my work, as a teacher, I'm teaching, and I really have to be when I'm teaching. That's the important part. I have to look forward to go to a teaching session. I have to fully be there in the teaching. I have to experience, teach the stillness. I have to feel the stillness. I have to feel that warmth. And if I'm not feeling that stillness and the warmth, then that is the question for me. I think it's important that this is not happening for me. Spontaneous creativity is not there. This is quite effortful. And I can do that, go on for months and years, but for sure it's not a way to go. And for sure it will not end up in a good way. So I think that awareness is, for me, that is very important, that what I do, creativity, I have teenage old. My wife is every now and then talking about the teenage as our son is turning and going into the teenage. And so the creativity will be how to even be with teenage kid. And how to connect with him. How to let him feel comfortable, let him feel connected, let him feel playful. That's the effortlessness of trying to be a little bit like a teenage. This is, I think it's very, I feel, important part of spontaneous creativity, because this is a living art rather than creating a dead art. I think it's a different, we are living, and that the expression of creativity should be in our everyday living. For example, as I said earlier, those you go to work, you got to love it. You should love it. You find a way to love it. That's the creativity. Because if you cannot love big part of your life, what you do, you're not going to do the good job. As far as a job is concerned, that's not the worst part. you're not going to be well. You're going to get sick. That's the worst part. I know cases where people in the end died. I clearly, as far as my perception is concerned, it was related to what things were they're doing in life. So stressful. So I think for me, it's more a little bit more, whatever you're doing as a work, relationship of family, friendship, service, the joy, the spontaneous creativity got to be in those places. And in order to have the spontaneous creativity, it's always a question about how much you take out yourself out of that scene, how much you bring others in front in that place. That is, I think, is important. And that takes awareness and a lot of pills.
And this is really what you speak about service to others at the end of your book, and you link it up to when Buddhism is called the Bodhisattva path, that you're not just doing it for yourself. And in a interesting way, this Jaipur Literature Festival has opened up a space where we're able to talk that way, because I've been to quite a few other conferences for writers and other sorts of artists, and I know there's an enormous focus on myself, how one is a success, how one gets grants, how one finds jobs, how one does all of these things, and those are all important, but I think it often reinforces a sense that the artist is a special person, and the artist is often in competition to other special people and needs to somehow stand above them. And your book is quite refreshing in terms of seeing that all of these things need to come from a space of openness and caring for others. And why would we make art just for ourselves? Well, there's a certain kind of release there, but in fact, as soon as you talk about your son, your teenage son, it's clear that we don't raise children, or we shouldn't be raising children for our own ego, gratification, but in fact, it's part of life moving through, and it's not just through us, but it's through our descendants, and it's come to us from people before us. So maybe you could say a little bit about the Bodhisattva path and how that works with the spontaneous creativity.
So I think, I don't know if it has something to do with age or not, that somehow it feels like in the end, it's about serving others. And it feels like, and how you serve others, you don't have to be the best to serve others. You don't have to be in the top to serve others. You don't have to compete to serve others. You have to find your place serving others, whatever unique qualities you have, whatever unique positions you have, whatever that you can do, maybe not many people can do. And I think it's more finding those places and operating from that place. Because question is, okay, creativity and art, what is the end goal? Is it about fame? Is it about money? Is it about a lot of artwork? What is it about? So the way I feel in this sense of creativity, in the end, it's about none of those. It's about freedom, that you feel you're free from many things that we wish to be free from our conflicts, social conflicts, from our conflict between loved ones, from pain that we face. Some pains have good reasons, many pains that even don't have any good reasons to have pain. Be free from all those. That's what it is about. And the only way to be free in terms of expressing yourself is when you express from your true place, from your full place, and not competition. And that is a joy. That is a liberation. And that, I think, will, in the end, will benefit. So I think, some sense, because serving others will be the only way you really serve others. In any place, any situation you serve others, is if you're able to be aware of your ego, or aware of your pain identity, let somebody win. Let somebody, I don't know. Why you have to be a winner all the time? Let somebody win. Why you have to be the first to talk? Why you have to be certain things that you expect? Why not? Others can. In the end, in the sense of in the end purposes, it feels very much connection when you're open to somebody. I mean, it's a strange thing. For example, sometimes what people do, they're trying to impress, as you were saying, how to get grant and whatever, all this, they're trying to tell who they know and everything. And then when I listen to that, I go, oh my God. It does not impress me at all. If they shut up their mouth, that will impress me more. Truly, if they are more humble, it will impress me. If they were more quiet, impress me. If they were listening more, impress me. If they are accommodating other people's need, impresses me. But not there when they're showing off. But that's what everybody does. That's a sign of weakness, it's not a strength. And unless you're trying to impress someone from your weakness, I'm the weakest person in the universe, are you impressed? Then maybe.
Good, you've given me a good opening here. I want to impress you with my ignorance now. Like I said, I'm a very poor Buddhist and even poorer Buddhist scholar and know very little bit about Bön. So I'm not, but I do want to ask you something about Bön. I heard somebody, and it might have been you, saying that because Bön is much older than Buddhism and really provided Dzogchen to Buddhism, somebody I heard say Bön might be 50,000 years old. And that's just a number and it's sort of academic, but it did strike me that it's possible that there may be teachings in some of the very old traditions that have been through enormous climate changes before. You know, our whole world now is feeling very unfree because of the kinds of, news that's coming around daily. On Friday was the great climate protests that were happening worldwide. And this feels now something that's weighing on everybody's mind. It should have been weighing on all of us long before, but we know that there were obstructions to recognizing climate change. And I just wonder if there's anything in the old traditions that have seen major climate changes, major earth changes before from the last ice age or something.
Well, that's difficult. So in the Bön tradition, according to the Bön tradition, oral history, it says about 17, 18,000 years. So I've never heard the 50,000, but and according to the old in Bön tradition, one of the uniqueness about the Bön tradition, it has a lot of knowledge, connection to the nature, honoring the nature, the sky, the earth, elements. Yes, very, very, very important part of our tradition practices. So, so in terms of the, in the Bön tradition, we believe that climate change or the provocation of the spirit of the nature, or the nature is kind of, in some sense, punishing back to us, is just because how much we have disturbed them. So it's not the earth. We don't look at earth only earth, but we look at earth as a spirit of the earth. It's the beings related to water, not only a water, but the spirits of the water. So and also these spirits need to survive. These elements, nature element, need to be kept clean because it's for our reasons, not for their reasons. In terms of the nature-wise, universe-wise, the nature evolves. It's ceaseless energy from boundless space. We are just a little thing there, and the changes are affecting us, and these changes has something to do with our relationship to the nature. So somehow, this idea of always using the nature, not honoring the nature as if the nature is like us. So I think that aspect, I feel like it's very, very important to understand and honor the nature from the Burn tradition, yeah.
And the way you've talked about creativity is something that runs through all our lives. It seems like this is a time where we're really being challenged to come up with a new sort of creativity.
Time for questions.
Willing to take some questions,
Sure,
Rinpoche?
sure.
Good, yeah. We'll open it up then to the...
We have a couple microphones. You don't have to turn them off or on. They turn them on in the back. So please raise your hand. We can start with you, and we'll run a microphone over to you.
Thank you for this. What do you think about addiction? What is addiction? Because we all seem to be addicted to something or the. I know I'm addicted to food, sugar, and social media, and you know how does one look at this? How does one begin to understand it and then kind of dissolve it with our awareness or something?
So, where I understand in our tradition, like a teaching in a Dzogchen, the addiction is some sense of longing for recognition of self. So I'm lost. I'm looking for myself. Who am I? So we looking for ourselves. So and that sense of lacking something inside ourselves, always you find something, substance, alcohol, food, whatever addictions are. Then I think addiction is simply nothing more than somehow feeling a little bit more closer to oneself or ignoring the pain to know oneself. I think it seems like that. So idea of overcoming, what I feel very useful in some sense as a meditation-wise, is just recognize that whenever urge comes, you know, when, oh, I wanted to eat sugar, right? I want to eat sugar, that cake looks very good. I want to eat 3 of them. So you can just that very moment be aware of that. And be aware the urge. Be aware, breathe it out. And more like a connect to yourself that moment. If you're able to do that a little bit, I think it will help not to eat 3, but you might eat only 1.
Okay. Question? Just stick your hand up. In the back there.
Hello. In terms of the word Dzogchen, closer? Okay. How's that? Usually from the Karmakagyu tradition or the Adri tradition, it's usually thought of as way up there, kind of towards the end. And of course, there's 2 schools. One that would say that came from Dzogchen. The other one would say, well, it's a different realization, different path. But my question is, in the Bön tradition, was Dzogchen always thought of as kind of that ultimate or high wisdom or knowledge?
The answer is yes.
Okay. But doesn't the Dzogchen tradition also say it's there at the beginning?
Beginning of what?
Well, at the beginning of everything.
Is there a beginning in the Dzogchen tradition?
Yeah, the beginning, like the beginning of the path. Does the beginning of the path have that aspect of Dzogchen to it? Because, I mean, the Buddha started with pain, right? He didn't start with the ultimate. He started with pain. He started with suffering. And then he said there's a path.
Well, in Dzogchen, in Buddhism, generally it says there is no beginning of samsara. But we hope there is an end of samsara.
Oh, yeah, hopefully there's an end, yeah.
Are you asking if Dzogchen requires like sort of special initiations and it's only for a particular group of people?
No, it's more like a view of the different schools of Buddhism. I mean, some people think that, you know, the ultimate state of mind is something that is way, you know, is a high level of understanding. And my understanding of Dzogchen was always that it's a much more kind of common or universal type of energy.
Yeah, maybe you're right. You're saying the right thing because of it is so common, that's why it's highest. Why is highest has to be uncommon?
Yeah, that's my question, and you say no.
No, it does not have to be.
Okay.
I think what is highest is it's where everywhere is. What is highest is what is obvious. I think Buddha taught all these canyons and different things. I don't think that Buddha need to teach all these canyons because people are listening we're dumb.
Yeah, yeah, listen.
So every time you have to repeat again and again becomes another volume. So message was not different, but people were not hearing it. So it has to be explained different ways. So sometimes it has to be explained more complicated way than they think that, oh wow, this sounds great. Simple one, no, that's not for me. I want a complicated one. That's how the people's mind works, right?
Thank you.
Other questions? No?
Hello, Tashi Dale. A lot of the pain body things sounded sort of macho. So what about people whose pain bodies come from sense of what we think of compassion and empathy, of giving ourselves too much?
So according to this Dzogchen teaching, it says, this line I've been using again these days, is that it says, "Chön tu tawe kolsa." When you look at pain or 5 emotions as something wrong, it's a mistaken. So it's not a macho, it's a very normal. It says, if you have, it's wonderful to experience it. The experiencing it is a sign of that you are aware of it. So it's like in some sense, nothing wrong about pain body, nothing wrong about sadness. Well, that's truly what I feel. There's nothing wrong about it. You know, I encourage my students, when you're feeling kind of pain in yourself, open to feel joyful. If you connect with your pain, you will be feeling joy. Because the pain needs connection. Pain is outcome of disconnection. So nothing wrong about it. Therefore, of course, when you do feel like idea of macho or resisting, rejecting, suppressing, then you have to be aware of that. That's what you're doing. And, or even when you're getting angry at your pain. I have a hurting knee, right? I'm hurting knee. I hate this knee. You say, I hate the pain, I hate the pain, I hate the pain of the knee, and then sometimes you get confused and I hate the knee. So hating the pain, hating the knee, do you think the knee or pain will heal or like it? No. You have to connect. So what is really missing, it's in healing what is really missing is connection. Connection is missing. In the pain, what is missing is the connection. You need to connect by not looking at something wrong.
Yes. Hi, Rinpoche. I wanted to talk a little bit about disharmony in the world right now, which seems to be ramping up tremendously between countries, between people of different views, and also from my experience from within different Buddhist sanghas, you know, Vajra sister and brother against other Vajra sister and brother. And these are so-called practitioners. So what do you advise to help create more harmony and less divisiveness, you know, on a personal level for all of us?
Yeah, so I think very good question. I think we need to take a lot of pills. White pill, red pill, blue pill. And I think social media, it's, as somebody was saying earlier, is that I was thinking this morning that usually, and maybe a long time ago, when we have a problem in our head. I'm feeling bad. Now, when you look at open the social media, you have a collective pain body. It's amazing, right? So it's like everything is influencing too much each other. So I think somehow, a little bit before we act out anything, trying to more connect with our own individual sense of my own anxiety, my own weakness, my own anger, my own disappointment, whatever is happening in me, I think make sure that I'm not contributing this to the collective conflict. because I feel in the social media, I mean, at least right now, it feels like it's very much happening, but some point in the future, probably it will stop happening. Probably it doesn't mean anything anymore because it's too crazy. But right now, at least there is some people saying something, so, oh, somebody's saying something. So not bringing one's own unclear pain into other collective pain places. I think if everybody can be a little bit more responsible for that, I think that will help. And everybody can a little bit more open their heart. Everybody can feel a little bit more empathy what others are going through. A little bit sense of, despite the different view, but a little bit openness and connection to the others, like connection to our own pain, I think will help a little bit more, I hope. Okay?
We have a question over here. We'll get you a microphone just a second.
Maybe you want to answer some questions.
My question is about the role of modern science. So when someone speaks about addiction, many people would say, well, there's a physiological element to it. And when there's a pain in the knee, it might be a broken bone or a tumor, and the connection is not going to be enough. So what role do you give to modern science in alleviating pain?
I think probably every pain, for sure, a number of things, as you're saying, chronic pain, it's very much something to do with the physical, but still, the experiences always have experienced by mind. I mean, I know personally myself, I just recently, I had a little piece of wood went in there, they cut it, and I was really trying to bring my practice into it. So I feel that whenever, even physical pain, when we are able to bring the sense of connection, what I call it, give spacious, luminous, warm hug to your physical or emotional pain. Spacious, luminous, warm hug is related with the 3 pills. Spacious is the white pill, luminous is connection, is the red pill, and blue is the warmth, so that heart. If you bring there, and we have done some researches also, like online, that people have reduced their physical pain more than like a 33%, 34%, like that, the reduction of that. So of course, some places then pain is not avoidable. That's the nature, So I'm not sure if it's the particular
Yeah,
question.
maybe he was also asking about what, like injury or damage to the body or something. And I guess, I think Rinpoche's teachings probably help in terms of your attitude towards it. What I was thinking about was we should ask William Dalrymple when he comes up to talk, because he's the expert on sort of the British Empire. But, the British Army had a great saying, trust in God, but keep your powder dry. I assume that you still go to the doctor if your hand gets
Sure.
infected. It's more,
Sure.
you're talking more about how you relate to it and don't turn it into anger at your child or anger,
No,
at
no,
your
for
wife.
sure, you go and, but I mean, I do go to the doctor, but not listen everything what they say. I went into Germany I know it's a renting, so there was a piece of wood went in there, and it was getting infected, so I was still ignoring it, which is not a good thing, but my friend forcefully took me in Germany, in Berlin, and they cut it. They could not find, they did X-ray, they could not see it. Then I was in Latvia, and then the student took me to the road, they cut it, this piece came out. In Germany, they waited for 4 hours, took 3 minutes to cut it, and she said there was nothing. And she gave me quite a bit of many antibiotic to take. So I take with me, but I did not take it. But I somehow trusted, I don't want to take immediately pills. I will try my pills first. And then everything is okay. I did not take pills. Because this is sometime like particularly in this country, really overprescribed pills. And sometimes they kill instead of healing.
We have time for one more, if it's not a long question, otherwise.
Rinpoche, hello? Rinpoche, thank you. in the West, when we approach Buddhism, it seems like it's always like a discussion and an argument and a discovery, and we're trying to define it, and we're trying to pin it down. We're kind of come up with words for it. This is a lot of how we do about everything in the West. And I was just wondering, when you come to a setting such as this with lots of Westerners, what kind of approach do you take, or how do you emphasize the importance of sitting practice? And that, how do you, because a lot of times in the West, we'll just continue to discuss Buddhism. And so how do you emphasize that?
Sorry, can you? Yeah, so in the Buddhism, I think there's not one approach. There is epistemology, very rich epistemology, where monks spend 30, 40 years debate. Like when we were growing up, until for age 10 to 27, we were debating 5-6 hours a day. So the discussion argument, like the people say we are fighting, we're not fighting, but this is just like lawyers. So there's a lot of this intense discussion, but then also at the same time, I went as a teenager, I went into a dark room for 49 days, totally sitting, nobody to talk to. So I think there's a role, both discussion has a very important role, debate has a very important role, but also sitting has a very important role, because a clear debate will only come when you sit enough. When you are grounded enough in the stillness, when you're grounded enough in silence and grounded enough. For example, you will move much better if you're in the stillness. You will speak much better in the silence. Your imagination will be much richer in the spaciousness of your heart, but not when they're all full. Yeah.
Okay, we are done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche and Andrew Schelling. Thank you so much.